For episode 2 of our Design Academy series, we are going to be talking about vector graphics, what they are, and why we use them. So there are two main types of graphics, raster and vector. Adobe Illustrator is a vector-based program, so any graphics that you create in the program will be vector art. Now, raster art is what most people are probably most familiar with, and that is graphics and artwork, imagery that is created using pixels. So if we zoom in here, you can already, tell the huge difference between this vector and raster version of this graphic. And if you zoom in really far, you can see that this graphic is actually made up with individual squares. Those are what we call pixels. Raster graphics are anything like PNGs, JPEGs, GIFs, things that people are generally familiar with. If you were to Google image search something, you'd be looking at a lot of raster images. Now, vector graphics are not made with pixels. They are actually made with mathematical equations that form the curves and lines and shapes that go into a graphic. So the really nice thing about vector graphics and why we use them in the design world is that they are infinitely scalable. So if we were to go over here to these blown up versions of those graphics, you can see that this graphic did not scale very well. It's very blurry and pixelated along the edges. If this were a t-shirt design, this would not print well at all. However, the vector graphic still looks just as sharp and clean as the smaller version, and if we were to zoom in super far, we would not have any pixelation occurring. So vector graphics, for the purposes of graphic design at least, are definitely the industry standard because you are able to scale those graphics infinitely without losing any of that quality. So if you're creating a logo, for example, and you need to put that on a billboard, you're going to be able to do that without having all this pixelation occurring. So you don't need to know too much about the technical details of raster versus vector. However, it is just important to understand why you work in a program like Illustrator and why you would not work in a raster program like Photoshop to create t-shirt graphics or other design graphics.